How to play Conqueror's Blade Solo Master Guide. The world of Conquerors is certainly a brutal and unforgiving one, filled with diverse tactics and different approaches. So it got me thinking, for any complicated problem, there's a complicated formula that you can simplify. So I got to work and brainstormed to do just that. As much as I could, basically the goal was so I would have a good chance of teaching how to be at least decent at the game, even to a complete beginner. So whether you are new to the game, intermediate, or you have been playing since forever, this guide is sure to improve your gameplay and your thought process in battle. So be sure to stick to the end. There are 3 parts to this formula, with the first part having 3 components, the second one having 5 phases, and the third one having 3 objectives. For ease of use, we are going to be talking in a siege scenario, so mainly we have 3 factors that we can use to our advantage, which is your commander, aka hero, your accompanied units, and the artillery you can build, or if you are on the attacking side, you have an artillery strike, which can be the difference of getting an A or S rank. So keep in mind you always have 3 main components to work with, and surprisingly people manage to make mistakes here already. In order to progress to the next stage, you first have to understand how these 3 components work and how best to use them. If you stagnate here, you will have troubles all the way down to the 3 golden objectives. Study your hero and where your class is best at, either at securing hero kills, cutting down units, or as heavily needed and decisive in a defense or attack of a capture point. Unfortunately, we aren't going to talk about which classes go best to certain categories, since that will make an already long video even longer. If you want to see something like that, let me know in the comments below. I'm serious, pause the video and comment if you wanna see it. Otherwise, it's not coming out. Go ahead, I'm waiting. Next component is your unit. Same principle applies to units. Know which units you are taking and how you are going to use them before you start a match. And do not use them in a disadvantageous situation. By that I mean, yes, don't charge your cavalry into IPGs. Don't set up your shields alone. Don't set up your ranged alone. Support units need to stick with the blob to support. And fast, mobile, high damage dealing units need to flank. Before every match, I want you to ask yourself which units to take or hold A and B, which are you taking for C and which for home base. So you already have a set plan of strategy to which you are going to stick to increase your score in the end as much as you can. Still holding on? Great, we only have artillery left to cover and we're moving on to the main juicy part of the video. Simple and golden rule for artillery, well, actually 2 of them. Don't place it somewhere it can be easily shot down, meaning behind corners, behind cover, or inside a thick blob of units where it can't be seen or destroyed. And don't place it if you think there's a reasonably high chance that you won't manage to shoot at least half of your ammunition. This is so when you do set up artillery, you get the maximum payout from it. Don't worry about trebuchets, we're going to be talking a lot about them in this next stage. So now that you roughly know on how to use your 3 components, we can discuss what factors contribute to your end match ranking, which are hero kills, unit kills plus type of units, and participation. These are the top 3 you should be focusing on as a top priority when you are in match. However, there are additional factors such as hero assists, damage taken, damage done, and artillery hits. There's also a potential factor that badges could play a role in, but I wasn't really able to reliably figure out if they do or not, so we're going to be leaving that out for now. Now let's get to the third part of this formula, so we can merge all 3 parts together and see how simple it is to be effective and an S rank player in Conqueror's Blade. Oh, you're still here? Awesome! This must really fascinate you. Since you spent all this time watching this useful video, you might as well give it a like, huh? For that good old L-tube algorithm. In order to be efficient in a siege, we first need to break up the phases of a siege into individual parts, with the first one being artillery phase, when the match starts and both teams mount their artilleries either in the attacking camp or on the walls. Wall engagement, when at least 2/3 of siege towers have landed on the walls. Street engagement, when at least one capture point on the wall has been captured, assuming the map has a wall capture point. Supply points, when the attacking team starts to pressure inner supply points, very important even when you're playing alone. Last point, when the attacking team starts to pressure the last capture point with at least one supply point captured within the walls. And since the top 3 factors that contribute to your end score rank are hero and unit kills plus participation, that is what we are going to be focusing on. With being as effective as possible, we are going to go over how you can use your 3 components in all 5 different phases so you can maximize your 3 factors. By now you figured out what the formula is, but be careful, this method only works if you know how to apply it as efficiently as possible to each individual stage. Most people know that you need to use your hero units and strike to get the best score outcome, but unfortunately most of us never stop to think of using predetermined approaches, including myself. Before actually getting this idea, I can say that my gameplay wasn't as nearly as good as it is now. After brainstorming these ideas, they take all the luck away from your matches and help you get better, higher scores more consistently. Now, the first being artillery phase is more important than you might think, enabling you to early on secure from 10 to 40 unit kills and 1 to 4 hero kills. This might not seem much, but ending a match with 80 kills compared to 120 kills that you could have gotten is a 50% increase. This phase is, in my option, best used to get those early unit kills in and not to be spent walking mindlessly around the map. Better yet, use this time to target exposed troops or unsuspecting heroes. This phase is the worst time you could use your trebuchet, since artilleries can be taken out with your own artillery, and any troops stationed on the walls are most likely baiting you into using your trebuchet early on. Any suspecting player will see the trebuchet's fire and will react to it. This phase is best used to bump your stats early on. Note that sally forths aren't advised at this phase. After at least 2/3 of siege towers have landed on the walls, the wall engagement phase begins. Keep in mind that this is one of the most important stages, since one of the bigger mistakes made are usually at this time, resulting in huge losses of good units, unnecessary trebuchet strikes resulting in little damage and even in friendly casualties. Although it is of huge importance that you defend this stage as long as possible, as a defender it usually does give you the highest chance of a victory, it is also very risky since the enemy does tend to push with 3/4 of their force towards one capture point if there are 2, or just push from one side if there is a single point, resulting in you getting caught up in that wave, losing your units and your life. Surprisingly, one of the best things you can do at this stage is not defend the heavily exposed wall capture point, but better yet, join the small scale fights that are taking place on the map, or hunt down stray units and heroes that diverted from the main force. Why this is so important is because you have to play to your disadvantages in this stage. Killing off unsuspecting units and heroes can drastically hurt the team when they come to the main point moments later. I heavily recommend sallying out when most of the enemy team is on the wall, since this will result in mass panic and confusion if done correctly, and can absolutely stop an attack before it even reached the capture point. All in all, in this stage it's important to stay alive and play carefully with your units. Since the battle is still going to be long, you can't afford to let someone else take advantage of your mistake. This phase is perfect for sallying out and medium for trebuchet strikes, since you can end up doing a lot of friendly fire and the strike can be seen coming. Remember that this is also a critical time for the attackers to get those participation points early on. Supply points. Now this isn't a set phase, but it does generally start after the first point has been captured. Now these supply points are so important that teams usually go straight for them in the beginning of many battles. Supply points are the real powerhouses of Conqueror's Blade. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. A supply point offers you a huge advantage where you can even take on double the forces and still end up victorious. Normally situated in good locations, either far from the reach of trebuchets, having only 2 points of access, and offering one of the best choke points, not mentioning gatehouses. which, guys, by the way, gatehouses are really not meant to be pushed through. There's a reason that's the only access point to the castle, because it's the easiest to defend. Supply points are one of the only strategies that have the highest chance of winning you the game. If the entire enemy team would push in unison 2 supply points, one after another, they would cause massive casualties to the enemy, a lot of confusion, and eventually earn themselves a tactical victory. So I really do hope the attacking side focuses more on getting supply points in the future. The only real danger to supply points, I'd say, is cavalry, but again, this threat has a low chance of being effective, thanks to heroes, muskets, javelins, fire, pikes, and so on. And remember, a supply point gives you access to all of your units, not just the ones you have with you. Street engagement, yeah boy, we're going guerrilla style now. Now, most street engagements happen when the team is pushing for the capture point. The most golden rule here is use the element of surprise to your advantage. Remember, as we said, if you have shields, archers, and pikes, stick to the main group to push effectively. However, if you are hungry for kills and took shock troops or cavalry, do not stop flanking until you get 50 good kills with your iron cap swordsman. Now you may ask yourself, how the hell does he think I'm gonna get 50 kills with my iron cap? Well, this stage is the best stage to do that, since you can effectively flank ranged units, intercept units that are heading to the capture point, spawn ambush heroes that are being respawned. Trust me, no one is going to go help them, and you can end up taking out tertios with a measly green unit. If your team manages to break the defense and takes the point, move fast to intercept the retreating heroes. They're already panicking, thinking how best to save their losses and life. The last thing they need is a shock or cavalry charge hitting their side or front. And you have already seen people doing this in Conqueror's Blade, so why wouldn't you start as well? The point of these flankings and harassments is that you cut off this supply line that the defenders have to the capture point. And since shock troops generally end up dead with the main push, with you saying why didn't my team push as well, is well, they can't. In most cases your units have an effective charge, where compared to shields, pikes, and ranged, they have to reposition more carefully and slowly and pay more attention to being flanked. So be sure to take the correct units for your set strategy. This stage is the best for securing tons of unit kills and many hero trophies. It's definitely okay for trebuchet strikes, depending on the map. Just be sure to target enemy positions with no friendlies nearby. Last capture point is completely unique compared to the other 4 stages, since if you did a good enough job till now, you would at least have 2 sets of units left to push or fight back the attackers. What's really important in this stage is that the game could potentially end within 30 seconds. So always have that in mind. One of the best victories the attackers can achieve is to take the castle with you not even using all of your troops. Staying back in this stage is generally a bad idea, especially if not undercover, since any remaining trebuchet strikes will be targeting you and your units. So as a defender, dig down into the attackers to force them to take friendly fire from their strikes, and pray that a player accidentally kills off his own team with a single strike. Be sure to use off your remaining units at this stage, and more importantly, if you do manage to push them back, go after them. You can do the biggest amounts of damage by chasing down retreating soldiers. Just be sure to not overextend and leaving your base empty for a longer time. Fight to your last on this point, but don't die. The only situation where you can die is if you stall the capture point of the base for a few extra seconds. Be sure to use your horse as well, so you can survive as long as possible. For your buddy to take out those hussars and mow down half of the attacking forces.
Protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah.
Now remember guys, that there are a lot of ways how you can maximize your score. This video is a solid foundation to build upon, and I do wish you best of luck in your matches. That's all from me. I hope this guide helps at least someone better understand and better play Conqueror's Blade. I'd really appreciate if you leave me a like so I can keep making more videos for the game. Leave me any questions you might have in the comments below, and as always, I will see you next time.
Burn for plans tonight. No.